Right. Is corporate America complicit in the human rights abuses of communist China? Frankly, it's hard to see it any other way when you look at their actions. NBC rejected this well produced and documented television commercial that was put together by Florida Congressman Mike Waltz. Watch it.
The world's greatest athletic showcase. But just outside the show, rape, genocide, slave labor. American companies are drunk on Chinese dollars, entangled with communist dictators committing atrocities and propping up these genocide games staged by the Chinese Communist Party. And what can we do?
Stand for freedom. Defund the dictators. When you see Made in China,
put it down.
Servant Leadership Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So why did NBC reject this ad? Joining me now with the answer, Congressman Mike Waltz, a member of the House Armed Services Committee, ranking member on the Subcommittee on Readiness, and a decorated Special Forces officer. He serves the 6th Congressional District of Florida. Mike, welcome back to the program.
Hey, good to be with you, Tony. Thanks.
Brilliant ad. Well done. So I've got to ask the question, why did NBC reject this ad?
Well, it's interesting. We booked the airtime with no problem to run during the Olympics. But when NBC actually saw the ad, they came back and said, well, we're not necessarily rejecting it, but we just want you to change it a lot and take out all the company logos and other material changes. So really, it was a non-rejection rejection and yet another form of censorship. And so yet NBC finds it okay to talk about the genocide that's ongoing, COVID, the Tibetans, Hong Kong, all of the other abuses in a kind of, muted, soft tone. But yet when we have an ad with Inez Cantor Freedom that really calls it out and calls these companies to task, then suddenly it can't be aired.
Yeah, well, they put it in the context of alleged allegations of genocide and of abuse. But look, the corporate logos, I mean, isn't that the point, to call American corporations onto the carpet for propping up this communist regime?
Well, that's right. And all of these companies preach good governance, their ESG standards, contribute tens of millions to social justice causes here in the United States. But when it comes to their profits abroad, they totally turn a blind eye to the COVID cover-up, to 1 million Muslims, Tony, that are in concentration camps, persecuting Christians, forced organ harvesting. I mean, the list goes on and on of just abuses under this dictatorship. Yet they totally turn a blind eye there. NBC's completely muted, and we're gonna call them out for it. By the way, the IOC and for so many others who say, well, this is just about sports and we shouldn't politicize it. They didn't take that stance when it came to apartheid in South Africa for nearly 30 years. They banned the Olympics there, banned the South African Olympic team, but yet, don't do a thing or lift a finger or say a word when it comes to a mass genocide. I think the greatest since the Holocaust. And the only difference in South Africa and China is the amount of money that's involved. Meanwhile, their military buildup continues. And it's not just a human rights issue, Tony, it's a national security issue. I don't want future soldiers and sailors facing Chinese ships and tanks that were funded directly and indirectly by American dollars. Enough's enough. And the theme of our ad was, when you see Made in China, put it down. It needs to be made in America. It's not just a national security issue. It's just a basic humanity issue.
It is. And it's a national security issue. When I want to underscore that point, because not only are these corporations, Wall Street, Hollywood, and some of these same corporations that want to talk about social justice here at home have no problem with genocide in China, but American consumers. And you make that point in this ad that we can be a part of this, of stopping it by simply, if it's made in China, put it down, don't buy it.
Well, you're absolutely right. I don't trust these CEOs as far as I can throw them. They selectively get involved in causes. You see Airbnb is also supporting the boycott and divestiture movement against Israel, right? But yet they're actually having houses in Xinjiang where slavery is going on. Nike gets its cotton from modern day slave-run cotton fields that are at the end of the barrel of the gun of the Chinese Communist Party. Coca-Cola gets its sugar from there. I mean, it's just total hypocrisy. And we're going to do everything we can to call them out on it. But I think the American people have to start voting with their wallets. And that's the only way you're going to get these corporate CEOs' attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next for the ad? NBC's turned it down. What do you do with it next?
Well, I mean, the NBC, attempted censorship has actually just put the thing on steroids. It's gone viral on social media. A lot of folks are picking it up. And Tony, I just got a note from one of my staff that was in a diner in North Florida. The person at the table next to her asked that the Olympics be turned on, and the waitress said, "We don't support genocide in this establishment." So the American people have a conscience. They know what's going on. And again, we talk about defunding all kinds of things. The left wants to defund the police that's protecting our communities. Let's defund dictatorships. Let's defund our greatest adversary. And that's my call to action. Again, defund the dictators. And when you see Made in China, put it down. It needs to say Made in America.
Congressman Mike Waltz, well done. I commend you for your leadership on this. You've been on this from the beginning, and you've followed it through, and I know you'll stay on it. Thanks so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you, Tony.